Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is unit number 4, the Great Train Journey. Class 6, this is first term, last topic, okay? Like in literature, this is our last topic. This is written by an Indian author. The Great Train Journey is written by an Indian author. His name is Ruskin Bond, and he's born in Himachal Pradesh in 1934. He has written many short stories, essays, novels, and books for children. He wrote his first novel, The Room on the Roof, when he was 17. And let me tell you, this writer is still alive. He's not dead, he's alive, and he's still writing things for the kids. Now, this is a story. The Great Train Journey is a very innocent story. When I was reading it and preparing it for this video, I really loved it. The things that are discussed in it in a very innocent way. Like the best thing about this author is that he depicted the emotions of a child so cutely. The selection of words is very good in it. Now, the Great Train Journey. I'll read it out, and then as usual I'll be explaining it paragraph wise or word to word explanation. Now, the character is Sajid. You can see the boy on book page number 39 who is sitting in a train, and his name is Sajid. Sajid waved to a passing train and kept waving until only the spiraling smoke remained. He liked waving to trains. He wondered about the people in them and about where they were going and what it would be like there. And when the train had passed, leaving him behind only the hot, empty track, Sajid was left alone. Now, the situation or the scene when it opens, when it starts, a boy is waving to a train. I remember that in my childhood, I never saw a train or something like that, but whenever a plane was passing by, I used to wave to it. I don't know why. All of us, all of my cousins and my relatives, we used to wave to the plane as if they can see us. This is what we were thinking at that time. Now I realize is that they can't see us because the distance is so much that they can't see us. But we had this imagination that people can see us from there above, and we used to wave to them, and we were so excited whenever we saw a plane. So this boy has the same feeling that whenever a train passes by, he waves to it, no matter what the people inside the train are doing. Are they observing or not? Are they responding or not? But he used to wave to them until and unless the train was gone and he could only see that smoke in the air which was coming out of the train. And then when everything was gone and finished and he was left, then he was left alone, and then that thing would made him a bit sad because he was very much excited to see. He wanted to know where these people are going and what are they feeling when they are sitting in the train, how this journey is, how do they experience that. So there were so many questions in his mind, and he was looking at the people and he was waving to them like this. Now, next paragraph says, he was a little lonely now, his hands in his pocket. He wandered along the railway track, kicking at loose pebbles and sending them down on the bank. Soon there were other tracks, a railway siding, and a stationary goods train. Now what happened? That when the train has gone and he can only see the smoke in the air which is there, so he was feeling lonely now because his excitement got finished and he was very much hyper, and then he was normal, but he was feeling lonely. So what he did, that he placed both of his hands in the pockets and he was just wandering at the railway tracks. He was just looking at it, and he was passing by, and when he was passing, he was hitting those small pebbles, that small stones with his leg, and he was hitting them so that it can fall down on the tracks. because there was nothing left, no excitement was left for him. So he was just watching the things, and he was thinking about, and he was looking at all the tracks that were there, and he was passing by, and he was in his own mind, he was thinking about something, and he could see that there were many other tracks, it says siding a stationary good train. Now this stationery over here is not the stationery of pencils and pens and all those things that are available. This stationery is that train which carry goods. And it can be fruits, it can be vegetables, it can be anything which carry it to the near stations by train. Sorry. Sajid walked the length of the good train. The carriage doors were closed, and as there were no windows, he couldn't see inside. He looked around to see if he was being observed, and then, satisfied that he was alone, began trying the doors. He was almost at the end of the train when a carriage door gave way to his thrust. Now what happens, that he was passing by through, and that was a goods train. It was a stationary good train which used to travel, take things from one station to another or to the nearby stations. So he was just having a look at it, and he tried to open the doors of it, but they were tight closed, and there were no windows in it. So he was trying to look inside, that how it looks like. He just wanted to examine how a train looks like. He looked around at that. He was looking here and there, that is somebody watching him? Is anyone observing him? So when he was relaxed that nobody is watching me anymore, so he just tried to open one of the door, and a door gave way to his thrust. Thrust means the force which a small boy can give worked out, and he was able to open the door of one of the carriage, that boxes type. So it was dark inside the carriage. Sajid stood outside in the bright sunlight, peering into the darkness, trying to recognize bulky, shapeless objects. Now when a person is standing or working in sunlight, and all of a sudden you enter into a dark room, you can't see things properly, because if you from sunlight directly go to a dark room, your vision is not that strong that you are able to see, but it takes a few seconds that you get ready, or your eyes are ready to focus on it, and you can see the thing. So he could see some bulky and shapeless objects, but he couldn't recognize what it was. He stepped into the carriage and felt around. The objects were crates, and through the cross-section of woodwork, he felt straw. He opened the door, and the sun streamed into the compartment, driving out the musty darkness. When he went near, he touched them, he focused them, and he examined them from near. They were the crates in which we keep fruits. You must have noticed they place those, and there are newspaper in it, then some kind of grasses, and then they place those fruits in it, and then another layer, and then another layer, and then they properly nail them. They bolt them and nail them, and then they tightly pack them, and then they can be easily taken to any place. So when he recognized that they were the crates, and he opened the door of that carriage completely, so that the sunlight can come in, and that darkness can become less, and he could see where he was and what is he doing, so that it is easy for him, so that he can see the things. Sajid sat down on a packing case, his chin cupped in his hand. The school was closed for summer holidays, and he had been wandering about all day and still did not know what to do with himself. The carriage was bare of any sort of glamour. Passing trains fascinated him, moving trains, crowded trains, shrieking, panting trains all fascinated him, but this smelly dark compartment filled him only with gloom and more loneliness. Now what happened? That he opened the door of that carriage and he sat down on one of the packed the crates which were completely packed and which was closed. He just sat up and he just chin cupped in his, he sat like this. You can see in the picture on the book as well that he was holding his face in his hand and he sat on it and he was watching the things outside that carriage. And he was thinking that as the school is closed for holidays, it was summer vacations, and he was been wondering that what to do with himself. He has nothing to do. There was nothing for him. There was no excitement for him. There was nothing. So he was getting bored. So he was just thinking that the school is closed because of the summer vacations, and he was sitting in a carriage on one of the packed crates and he was just looking outside. Now he says that this carriage in which he was sitting had no glamour. No glamour, there was nothing beautiful in it. There was nothing that could attract him. Passing trains fascinated him. Whenever he saw a train that was passing in front of him, to which he used to wave, that fascinated him a lot. He has this curiosity that moving train, that full of people and of those trains, and he says that when he used to look at those trains which were full of people, which was crowded, and which he used to saw when he was on the ground and he used to wave to them, that was something which attracted him. But the one which he is sitting in one of the carriage, it is a dark one. It has no glamour, no beauty, no attraction in it, and the smell is so bad in it that it makes him sad. Gloom means sad, and he feels more lonely. He did not really look gloomy or lonely. He looked fierce at times. Fierce over here means violent or aggressive, when you get irritated. When he glared out at people from under his dark eyebrows, but otherwise he usually wore a contented look, and no one could guess just how deep his thoughts were. Now what happened, that he was looking rather not sad or lonely, he was looking aggressive. He was angry that when I look at the crowded train, they attract me so much, but right now I'm sitting in a carriage and this is so gloomy. There is nothing attractive in it. So he says that the writer over here is actually telling us that he has this describing his features, that he used to look at people under his eyebrows like this and he used to watch them, but nobody was aware that this boy has this much deep thinking, that how he observed different things. It says perhaps shayad if he had company, some fun could be had in the carriage if there had been a friend with him, someone like Umar. Now we get to know over here that he has a friend and his name is Umar, and he's thinking that what if Umar was with me, I would have a company, I would have a friend, I would have someone to talk to share my feelings and emotion, and I would have enjoyed it. A person alone cannot enjoy things until and unless you have a person with you, with whom you have a mental understanding, and if it is a friend, then it is something out of this world, because all of us love to spend time with our friends, and they are special because they are our friends. So he says that if Umar was here, he would have enjoyed. He looked at the crates. He was always curious about things that were bolted or nailed down or in some ways concealed from him, things like parcels and locked rooms and carriage doors and crates, etc. In this paragraph, it says that Sajid, this character, this boy who is sitting in this carriage of the train, he always has this curiosity. He always wanted to investigate that why do people nail or bolt things? Why do they have parcels that are tightly packed? Why do people lock the rooms? Or why are things kept so in security and privacy? So he had this curiosity to open up all these things and just to see what these have. So this is one of his habit, that he wanted to see the hidden things which he thinks were hidden from him. So he wanted to open those crates also which were lying in that carriage. He went from one crate to another, and soon his perseverance was rewarded. The cover of one hadn't been properly nailed down. Sajid got his fingers under the edge and raised up the lid. Absorbed in this operation, he did not notice the slight shudder that passed through the train. Now what happened, that when he was looking at all those crates and he was having this curiosity, he wanted to know that what was in it, and he was trying to check out if he could somehow see what is inside those crates. So when he was searching all of them, and then at last he noticed that one of it was not tightly nailed, and he just picked one of the lid like this, because those crates have something like this, wooden pieces, and if it is not nailed you can just pick it up like this. He entered his hand in it and he tried to dig out what is it. And while doing all this, he was so much into it that he didn't even realize that somebody passed in that carriage. There was another person also in that carriage. He plunged his hand into the straw and pulled out an apple. It was dark ruby red apple, and it lay in the dusty palm of Sajid's hand like some gigantic precious stone, smooth and round and glowing in the sunlight. Sajid looked up out of the doorway and thought he saw a tree walking past the train. Now what happened, that when he got a chance to find out what was in those crates, he noticed that one of it was not properly nailed, and he just put his hand inside and he touched, and with his touch he could realize and he could notice that it was apples in it, and he took it out, and when he took it out it was red in color, it was shining in that sunlight, and over here the writer is actually telling us how beautiful that apple was looking. So it says that when he took out that apple, he was looking outside the carriage, he thought that those trees were passing. Actually, the train was passing, but when you are traveling, you feel as if the things are passing by. Because the speed of that vehicle, the car you are sitting or the train you are, you feel as if the plants are walking by or they are passing by. Actually, we are passing by. But it looks like that. So Sajid noticed that the trees were passing by, and he was just looking at it. He was like noticing that, and it was very, even we at this stage also, if we are traveling someone, we look out the window and we look at the things, and it keeps us so busy, isn't it, that we don't realize how much time is spent. Now when he took out that apple, and the writer is explaining how beautiful that apple looked in the sunlight, that it was red and it was round and it was juicy and it was something which a person says that let me take a bite and check it out. So he realized, the boy Sajid realized when he was looking outside, as if the trees were passing by he could see by the window of the carriage. He dropped the apple and stared. He just forgot about that apple and he started staring and looking at the scenery. It was looking beautiful, that everything was passing by, and he was looking at them with curiosity. There was another tree and another, all walking past the door with increasingly rapidity. Sajid stepped forward but lost his balance and fell on his hands and knees. The floor beneath him was vibrating. The wheels were clattering on the rails. The carriage was swaying. The trees were running, now swooping past the train, and the telegraph poles joined them in the crazy race. Now, over here, the writer is explaining that when the boy was so much deeply examining all that, everything was passing by, and one tree and another and another and another, and it was so fascinating. It was making him like he was so much into it that he just went near to the door and he was watching out all the things, and the train was with its speed passing by with full rapidity over here with full speed. So the boy couldn't balance himself. He couldn't control himself while he just fell down on his hands and on his knees, and he tried to hold something so that he can stay in that carriage, or he would have fell out. But while he fell down on it, when he touched the base or the floor of the train, he could feel the vibration of it because the wheels were on its full speed. He could hear the engine voice, and he noticed one more thing, that with the trees, the over here it is mentioned the telegraph poles. Telegraph poles are the what do we call it, those electricity towers type one we have with our school also. I can see it right now. It's in front of me. It's a type of electricity booth or something. I don't know what is it called, but those towers with which sometimes those towers are used for mobile phone signals, and some are the electricity towers which connect those wire one with the other, and they are far from each other but they are connected through those wires. So he was looking at them, those telegraph poles and those trees which he could see, and it was a very interesting and a very beautiful scenery for him, something which he never before experienced. So this was his first experience, and he was very much deeply looking at things, and he was enjoying it. It was something unusual for him. Crouching on his hands and knees, Sajid stared out of the open door and realized that the train was moving fast, moving away from his home and puffing into the unknown. Puffing, smoking. The train was taking out the smoke out of it, and it was moving very fast to the unknown because he was not aware where the train is going. He crept cautiously to the door and looked out. The ground seemed to rush away from the wheels. He couldn't jump. Was there? He wondered any way of stopping the train. He looked around the compartment again. Only crates of apple. He would not starve, and that was one consolation. He was looking at the things those were passing by, and he could feel how the engine was working, how the floor of the train was vibrating, and the sound and everything, and he was watching outside the door, and he just managed to get, but he was thinking that how can I jump from the train? What if I want to jump? How can I? Because it was moving in a very fast speed. Then he was thinking, the next thing came to his mind, that he was wondering, he was thinking, what would be the way to stop the train? What if I want to stop the train over here? How would I? So he was just wondering all this. He looked around the compartment, so he just noticed again the compartment, the carriage in which he was, and he noticed that only the crates of apple were lying over there. And this thing had a consolation. He had this comfort and satisfaction that what if he get hungry, there were a lot of apples lying in that carriage. He picked up the apple he had dropped and pulled a crate nearer to the doorway. Sitting down, he took a bite from the apple and stared out of the open door. "Greetings, friend," said a voice from behind, and Sajid spun and guiltily, his mouth full of apple. Now, when he was thinking about all these things, that what if he wanted to jump from the train, what if he wanted to stop the train, how would he do all these things? But then he just had a look at the crates which were there in the carriage. He just pulled one of the crate nearer to him, and the apple which fell down from him, he just picked it up, he just cleaned it, and he started eating it, and he was just staring outside the train and looking at the things. All of a sudden, somebody called, "Greeting, friends." "Hi, friend," somebody greet him, said a voice from the behind. Now somebody greets him and says, "Hi, friend," and Sajid got spun. He got, it's spin means, spun over here is the second form of spin, matlab turn around, and he was guilty. He was guilty because he took out those apple without any permission. He was not aware whose they were and they belonged to whom, but he just took it out, and his mouth was full at that time from apple. And when he turned back to the voice which came from his back, a dirty beard face was looking out at him from behind a pile of crates. The mouth was open in a wide grin. Now what happened, that when he turned around and he saw the man, he was a dirty man. He was not a neat, clean man. He was such dirty. He had this beard on his face, and he was looking at him from behind. That man was sitting, the collection of crates were there, and he was sitting behind them. And when he came out, all his face and clothes were dirty, and he had this beard, and he was not in a good condition. The mouth was open with the wide grin. Grin means when you have a smile on your face completely till here and you are looking at someone. So he had this type of smile on his face. He was trying to give him a good look, but he was a dirty man. And now Sajid is looking at him. He don't know who he was, and he just said hi to him, and he came out behind the piles or the collection of the crates. "Hello," said Sajid apprehensively. "Who are you?" Now Sajid saw a man behind the collection of, or a pile of complete crates were there, because it was full. The carriage was full of crates all over. So somebody just came out and he said hi. So Sajid in response said, "Hello, and who are you?" Now he's asking. The man stepped out from the behind the crates and confronted the boy. He just came out and came in front of Sajid. "I'll have one of those too," he said, pointing to the apple. Now, rather than replying to him that who he was, he said that I would also like to have one or two apples, the one he was having in his hand. So he says that even I want to have these. Sajid gave the man an apple and stood his ground while the carriage rocked on the rails. The man took a step forward, lost his balance, and sat down on the floor. While taking those apples from him, he was standing in that carriage, and the train was moving with its speed. So he got imbalanced and he just fell down, and he just sat on the floor over there. "And where are you going, friend?" he asked. "Have you a ticket?" "No," said Sajid. "Have you?" The man pulled at his beard and mused upon the question, but did not answer it. He took a bite from the apple and said, "No, I don't have a ticket, but I usually reserve this compartment for myself. This is the first time I've had company. Where are you going? Are you a hippie like me?" Now what happens, that rather than having introduction with each other, Sajid asked him that who are you, but he didn't respond to that, and he asked directly for the apples. And when he sat down, so he asked Sajid that you are traveling in this train. Do you have a ticket? And where are you going? So Sajid said, I don't have a ticket. In reply, he also asked him that, do you have a ticket? So for a while he was just with his hand holding his beard, and he was thinking, and he did not answer the question. But later on he said, he took a bite from the apple. He was busy in eating that apple, and he responded that, no, I don't have a ticket, but I usually reserve this compartment, or I usually travel in this same carriage in which you are traveling all the time. Whenever I want to travel, I just come hide beside all these crates and goods and the things which are there. I just go and hid over there, and then I travel, and at some places I just jump from it. So he is asking Sajid that, are you a hippie like me? Hippie means a person who don't have a proper lifestyle of something. Sometimes they are they are enjoying life, and they are careless, and they are not worried how their life is going. And so hippie means a person who is not who do not lead a proper normal life, like they are into different things and they don't bother how life is going on. So I don't know, said Sajid, where does the train go? Now Sajid is saying that he just got on the train and he is not aware where the train is going. The scrooby ticketless traveler looked concerned for a moment and said, where do you want to go? Now what happened, that he gave this rough and a very sort of not good looking shall I say, those expressions on his face, but he was trying to show his concern that where he want to go. And he asked him that, like, what are your plans? Where do you want to go? I want to go everywhere, said Sajid. I want to go to England and China and Africa and Greenland. I want to go all over the world. Now Sajid was a child, and he had this what should I say, that it was his wish to travel all over the world. All of us have this wish to travel all over the world and see how the world looks like and visit all the beautiful and historical places. So as a child he had the same wish. So he says that I want to go to England, I want to see China, Africa and Greenland and all over the world. Then you are on the right train, said the man. This train goes everywhere. First it will take you to sea, and there you will have to get on a ship if you want to go to China. How do I get on a ship? asked Sajid. Can you cook? he asked. Now what happens? They are having conversation with each other, and this man, with his looks or his body language, a person who himself is not serious about his life, how can he guide someone else or a child? So he was actually just passing his time over there. He just want to spend time just by asking silly questions from him and just to keep himself busy. So he told Sajid that if you really want to see England and Africa and China, so you are on the right train. Because this train will take you to the sea, and there on the ship you will go, and then you can go to China. And then he asked Sajid, now he is a small boy and he is asking such a silly question, that can you cook? He asked from Sajid. Yes, said Sajid untruthfully. Can you scrub a deck? Can you clean small boats? Why not? Can you sail a ship? Okay, now what happens, that the man is having conversation with Sajid, and now he is just passing his time with the child. And when he get to know that the child is excited and he want to see all the countries and he want to visit England and China and Africa and Greenland, so he's telling him that you are on the right ship, and this ship will take you to the sea, and over there this train will take you to the sea, and from the sea you will get on a ship, and from there you can go to China. Now he's asking, can you cook food? Now he was a small child. How could could he? And the way he was asking those silly questions from him, and he was like, and he's asking him that, can you clean a small boat? It says scrub a deck. Now scrub a deck means to clean small boats. And then he asked that if he can sail the ship. Now he was so excited that every question he asked, Sajid would respond that, yes, I can do anything. Sajid finished his apple, took another from the crate and dug his teeth into it. He took aim with the core of the old apple and tried to hit a telegraph pole, but missed it by meters. It wasn't the same as throwing a cricket ball. Then, to make the apple more interesting, he began to take big bites to see if he could devour it in 3 mouthfuls. But it took him 4 bites to finish the apple, so he started on another. Now, when he was having this discussion with this man, he was eating one of the apple in excitement. When the apple is finished, you must have noticed that when we eat all sides of the apple, the middle part is left, in which there are seeds in it. All the kids have this habit that you want to throw that, just to see that you have a good pace of hitting something or throwing it into the dustbin or something. Same is the case with Sajid. While he was passing those telegraph poles, as I told you, those electricity poles which have wires, they are connected through wires. He, from the passing train, wanted to hit that telegraph pole with that piece left from the apple. And when he tried to hit it, it missed it. Why? Because the speed of the train, and you cannot take an accurate focus on it because it's a moving train. It's not standing at one place. It was moving, and he cannot hit it directly. So he was saying that he couldn't hit it because a cricket ball has this, one can focus on it and one can hit it on a proper direction. But for that, you are at place, you are standing, and nothing is moving around. So you can hit something at a proper direction. So Sajid was, as he was a small boy, now again he was having discussion before that, and now he's checking his focus on things and hitting, that how good he was at it. And then he says that he took another apple and he wanted to finish it in 3 bites, big bites, with which his mouth was full. But still, he was a very young boy. He couldn't finish that apple in 3 bites. It took him 4 bites to finish that, and then he started another one. The train was, it is Sajid had always wanted to be in a train that would take him to strange new places over hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. And here was a train doing just that, and he wasn't quite sure if it was what he really wanted. Now this was his wish to travel in a train, and he always wanted to travel and just to check new places, and he could see and he could go for 100 of kilometers. He wanted to travel very far, but he don't know that whether he's on a right train or not, or what if he is now, is it for what he want, or for the wish he always had, it will be fulfilled or not. He's not aware of anything. He just got into it, and now he's not aware of it. Where is it going and what is it for? The train was coming to a station. The engine whistled, slowed down. The number of railway line increased, crossed, spread out in different direction. Before the train could come to a stop, Sajid's companions came to the door and jumped to the ground. Now what happened? That the train was coming to a station was nearby, and the engine started whistling, it started making sound, and when it was making sound, the speed of the train was getting slow. He could see that the railway lines were crossed in different directions, and it was spread in different locations also. So before the train could stop, the man who was there in that carriage with Sajid, he jumped from it. before the station arrived, because the speed of the train gets slower. So when it gets slower, he got a chance to jump from it. "You'd better keep out of sight if you don't want to be caught," he warned, and waving his hand, he disappeared into the jungles across the railway track. Now what happened? This man is telling him that if you don't want to be caught, like if you are without a ticket, you are traveling in a train, what you have to do is that you have to take care of things that before the station arrives, you get a chance and you just disappear, and people would, nobody will get to know that somebody is traveling without having a ticket. So he was just giving a suggestion to him, which I think was not necessary to give it to Sajid. But this is how it happened. And he just disappeared in the jungle, and the railway track, he was moving. The train was at siding, and Sajid could not see any signs of light, but he heard voices and the sounds of carriage doors being opened and closed. He suspected that the apples wouldn't stay in the compartment much longer, so he stuffed on into each pocket and climbed on to a wooden rack in a corner. Okay, now what happened? Now when that man jumped from the train into the jungle because he wasn't having a ticket, and he wanted to escape so that nobody can notice them. So what happened, that Sajid says that he could hear that the carriage's doors were getting open and closed, and he realized, and he thought that these crates of apple will no longer stay in this carriage. What he did, that he took out some of the apples, placed them in the pockets as much as he could, and then he went in the corner and he just hid himself over there, so that nobody can feel that there was someone in this carriage. So he tried to get on side so that nobody can notice him. Now what happened, that presently men's voices were heard in the doorway. Two laborers stepped into the compartment and began moving the crates toward the door, where they were taken over by others. Soon the compartment was empty. He was right when he noticed the... Okay, now we have discussed that Sajid noticed that the doors of the compartment were opening and closing, and he could hear the voices of people. He realized that the carriage in which he was traveling was about to get empty of these crates which were which were stored over there. So he placed some of the apples in his pocket as much as he can, and then he went into the corner and tried to hide himself. Now what happened, that he noticed the voices of the people, and soon he took that action on a very correct time, because as he just hid himself over there, he noticed that two people entered the carriage and they started carrying all these crates, and in a very short time that compartment was completely empty. Sajid waited until the men had gone away before coming down from the rack. After about 5 minutes, the train started again. It shunted up and down, then gathered speed and went rushing across the plain. When that compartment got empty and all the crates were removed from it, he noticed that the train started again, because that was not the ultimate station they wanted to stop on it. The journey started again, and he felt the engine get started and the train was moving. Sajid felt a thrill of anticipation. Where would they be going now? He wondered what his parents would do when he failed to come home. That night they would think he had run away or been kidnapped or been involved in an accident. They would have the police out, and there would be a search party. Sajid would be famous, the boy who disappeared. Now, as Sajid is a very small boy and he was thinking about all these things, and now he was realizing that he is traveling. So what if he don't go home? What will his parent think? They'll think that he ran away from the house or somebody kidnapped him, and then they will inform the police, and then there will be search parties, and then the people will talk about him that the boy had disappeared and the boy name is Sajid, and he thought that he will become famous. These kind of thoughts come to our mind. Being a mother, I myself, if I send my child to a market or something, these things come to my mind. He took a lot of time, he's not home, I call him, he's not picking the mobile phone, and then I'm get worried, and then I'm like, when he come back and I say, why do you spend so much time, and you were supposed to be here within 10 minutes and all that. Why, when we are sitting at a place and when we have these kind of thinking, it is very natural, and all of us do this. You must have noticed your parents. If you get late from school, after the school finishes, and then she started calling the driver and she's asking about things, is everything okay? Being a mother, it is very natural. So same is here, he is thinking of his parents, that they will be thinking that maybe Sajid has ran away, maybe somebody has kidnapped him, and he was thinking about all these things, and he thought that he will become famous by all these. The train came out of the jungle and past fields of sugarcane and villages of mud huts. Children shouted and waved to the train, though there was no one in it except Sajid and the guard and the engine driver. Sajid waved back. Usually he was in a field waving. Today he was actually on the train. What happened, that he noticed that now the train was passing by jungle, and then there were fields of sugar cane, and then he saw villages where there were mud houses, and he saw children in the fields who were shouting and who were waving to him. Now Sajid knew that on this train there were two guards, one engine driver, and just Sajid were there on that particular train. But the children who were in the field, and when they saw the train and they were excited and they were waving, so Sajid could feel that he used to do always, this is what he does always, that he is in the field and he waved to the train and nobody even noticed. Today he is on a train and the children are waving to him and he waved back to them. So this was something he experienced, that once he was in the field, he used to wave to the people, and now today he is on the train and the other children are waving to him. He was beginning to enjoy the ride. The train would take him to the sea. There would be ships with funnels and ships with sails, and there might even be one to take him across the ocean to some distant land. He felt a bit sorry for his mother and father. They would miss him. They would believe he had been lost forever. But one day a fortune made he would return home, and then nobody would care anymore about school reports and that he ate and why he came home late. Umar would be waiting for him at the station, and Sajid would bring him back a present, an African lion perhaps, or a transistor radio. But he wished Umar was with him now. He wished the ragged hippie was still with him. An adventure was always more fun when one had company. Now at this time, after having all those thoughts, that he was thinking about his parents, and he was thinking that maybe if he don't go home and they'll call the police and everybody will be searching the disappeared boy, and the boy is Sajid and he'll get famous. Now he was enjoying that journey in the train, and when he was enjoying, he was thinking that now this train will take him to the sea, and then into the other ships, and then into the oceans, and now he was creating something of his own. Now this imagination he was having, and he was happy about it when he was thinking, but when he think of his parents, he become a bit sad that his parents will think that Sajid is lost and he's gone forever and he will never come back, and one day all of a sudden he will go home and he will give them surprise that I'm back home, and nobody will ask about his school reports or why is he not eating, or why is he coming home late, and nobody will notice all this, but they will be happy that Sajid is back home. And then he says that he will bring something, some presents for his friend Umar. It can be an African loin as a present, or it can be a transistor radio, or something which his friend would see and he would get happy. Then he says that for I am having all this journey, but I wish I had a friend with me, any person who can give me the company. And if it was Umar, he says that I would have enjoyed all this adventure, the journey which I am having right now, that I am experiencing all these things, and if I had a friend, I would have enjoyed a lot. He had finished both apples by the time the train showed sign of reaching another station. This time it seemed to be moving into the station itself, not just a siding. It passed a lot of signals and buildings and advertisement boards before slowing to a halt beside a wide, familiar platform. Now he was imagining all these things, and he was happy about it, and he was very much excited, and he thought that he wished Umar was with him. And when he was thinking about all this, he was eating those apples which he kept in his pocket, and then he reached to a station. He was noticing that he was moving, and he saw many signals and buildings and advertisement boards that those are placed on the side of the roads. And he then noticed that the train in which he was taking the journey had stopped at a very familiar platform. The station where it stopped, he thought he knew that place, and he was looking at it and he was shocked. He was amazed that what is it? Sajid looked out of the door and caught sight of the board bearing the station's name. He was so astonished that he almost fell out of the compartment. He was back at his hometown after traveling 40 or 50 miles. Here he was home again. Now it was a train which was used for transportation of goods, and he reached back to his home station, and he saw the name of the station on the board, and now it made him a bit sad, and he was surprised that he traveled so long and he came back to the point from where he get into the train, and he planned so many things for himself, but all of a sudden he realized that he was back, and it made him very upset. It was the local apple train which used to deliver the apple at different places. Sajid glowered angrily at everyone on the platform. It was though the rest of the world had played a trick on him. Now he was looking at everyone with the very annoying, and he was staring at them, and he was so irritated because he thought that everybody cheated him. Everybody have made a trick on him, and it was something which shouldn't be done with him. But this was nobody's mistake, because he himself was not aware that the train in which he is traveling is what sort of a train and is used for what. He made his way to the waiting room and slipped into the street through the back door. He did not want a ticket collector asking him awkward question. It had been a free ride, and with that he comforted himself. Shrugging his shoulders, Sajid sauntered down the road to the bazaar. Someday he thought he'd take a train and really go somewhere, and he'd buy a ticket just to make sure of getting there. I'm going everywhere, he said fiercely. I'm going everywhere, and no one can stop me. Now what happens that when he realizes that he's back on the station from where he started his journey back, it was his home station, and he just came out of the compartment and he went into the waiting room. He was trying to get on side so that the ticket collector could not see him, and then he'll ask questions, awkward question, that how did he travel and where is the ticket and all this. He wanted to avoid all that, and he just shrugging his shoulder, and he was thinking in his mind that one day I'm gonna make myself able that I'll have money, I'll buy a ticket and I will travel wherever I want. And he was a bit aggressive and violent, and he was says that I will go everywhere, wherever I want, and nobody can stop me and nobody can question. Nobody will be able to ask why am I doing all this. So this is the end of the topic, and it was a very long one, but it was a very interesting one. This is the end of the first term class 6. I hope there is no issues and no problem in it. Take good care of yourself, as you mean a lot to us. Thank you very much.